right, it is now time for raising funds for World Domination, day number 195. So, for the daily update on the rent eviction situation, there's no further updates. So we won the case back on October 14th, and there was a rumor that they would try to appeal, and I still have not seen any notification about appeal attempts. So I think there's only a couple more weeks that they have to try and appeal if they're going to. The next front I've been working on is the Shopify Store, so there's no updates on that. No additional sales, but if you want, you can buy a block type dedication. And as for the marketing videos, I have two finished videos that are in the queue, ready for release. So those are available, and I don't know, maybe I'll release the next one in a week or a week and a half or something. And the current focus is to get to the next release of the terminal block mining simulation game by day 200. So the days are counting down. So I guess we'll continue with work on the terminal block mining simulation game, as we always do. So today I worked on, I think the crafting menu is basically done as far as what I wanted. So you can select the different crafting recipes. The keyboard inputs are working. And it should remember now what your selection was. So if you go over to that, select the second one, go close frame, one crafting menu. Oh, look at that. It didn't do it. So I guess that's one more thing to fix. That's annoying. Yeah, other than that, I also found, because of some of the messaging, I added a new message type. So I have a mechanism in the threads to send messages between threads. And there's something I added, which was to do blocking messages. So basically I can have one thread send a message to another and block until the message is returned. And I hadn't been using that feature a lot, and I started, I want to add a more kind of general mechanism so other threads can talk to the main game state thread and retrieve information. I added that today, and then that also made there's a race condition that manifested, so I encountered a deadlock that I fixed today. So that was another thing I worked on. Orthoplix64, how's it going? Dookie up bias says yo. Sightfall says hi. How's it going? All right, so this shouldn't happen. drafting interface thread state. So I think where that problem comes from my list is unfortunately complicated because to select when I select an item, because it basically ends up being a grid, I keep track of it by the X and the Y. Let's see, is this one wrong too? I think that's right, but why was it wrong? Okay, that is the first one selected. Bless you, thank you. That prevents my soul from escaping. Or so I was told once when I was a kid. Okay, that works if the first one is selected. Did I comment that out? Wouldn't want your soul to escape? No, that'll be bad. I'm not even sure what the medical implications of that could be. Hi, what are we doing? Tonight we are working on the terminal block mining simulation game. I believe you become somebody like Elon if that happens. Then I'd build rocket ships to Mars. right. Wait, this is... I was just watching the how to make CPU vid, and it's mind-blowing. Yeah, that video's been trending again recently, which is nice. Now everybody can learn how to make a CPU. Actually, if you like that video, you should watch my playlist. I made a playlist, how to make a CPU. So it contains, that video is the first one. But I have some other like close-ups of die shots and stuff. I do some more. The how to make CPU one, that has got like 16 million views. But I have a bunch of other CPU and semiconductor related videos that got like, 2,000 views or something. And I put almost as much work into those ones as the 16 million view video. All right. Let's step through and figure out why that index is wrong. How'd you reach that knowledge to work for Intel? No, I just did a bunch of research and Googling myself, and if you just research how they're made, and you can buy the components, and then you kind of buy some stuff and read a book, and kind of just keep doubling down on the information to get more and more. I guess if you do in university, I did software engineering in university, so you learn like a bit about computer hardware architecture and stuff. I guess a lot of it turns out to be like knowing what to Google, which is kind of what that video helps you do if you want to learn about the process of making CPUs. Now you know that you need a chromium etched photolithographic quartz mask So you can Google that. Now I found I had issues with this thing, the debugger getting stuck before. And it seems like the thing that made it work was if I build it in the ID first. Let's see. So we want to do that didn't crash. Frozen Spaceman says, "What's good?" That's a good question. What is good? Candy is pretty good. Money is also pretty good too. What else? The weather's been gloomy. All right. Frozen Spaceman sent one Robert Elder Software gifted membership. Congratulations to Danny C. I feel that, man. Yeah, I don't know. Things in general are. They're all right. We're keeping on. The rent eviction case, we won that. But then again, the prospects for future growth are making $1 million living in a expensive mansion. That still seems very far away at the moment. But could be a lot worse. When you look at the news, there's lots of really bad stuff going on right now. So at least I don't have that going on. Do you ever redraw each line of ASCII characters each time the screen updates? It's supposed to try and be intelligent, and there's actually a ton of effort I put into like a screen difference calculation and merging algorithm that I made. There's some issues with it. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in this thing to try and build up a display, but it's pretty. I'd say it works pretty good right now. I had some. Oh, that's not good. I fixed this already. Let's stop that. Yeah, I did. I put quite a bit of work into like a screen layer merging thing. There's actually a whole bunch of corner cases when you want to support multi-column characters, like emoji characters can take up like 2 spaces. Project structure, that might have been it. So if you have like a 2 column wide character with a background color on it, there's like questions about like what happens when you have like a display layer and then you just merge other characters down that cleaves a 2 column character. It has to do something, and if you just if you do nothing, then the output gets kind of messed up stuff. But I'd say it works pretty well right now. There's I could make it faster. I was thinking about adding, doing some more work to make it a bit smarter. So we'd do like the minimum amount of screen updates, or something that would let me do like debugging, so I could have like an interactive step-by-step process where it'd say like, okay, updating this area of the screen, press like Y to continue, and it would have like, it would be like a debug mode I could turn on where it would actually tell me, it would explain to me what it's updating on the screen, and that way I'd use that to catch bugs, because I think there's some cases where, like I think when you start it up, it actually redraws the screen like a couple times, which is wasted updates. And there's a few things where it's like it's doing there's certain areas of the screen that it just goes over more than one time. All right, so that's value 1. Interesting. That's not what I expected. It should go into the has vertical orientation branch, I think. That's weird. Why is it doing that? Bro, why did you remove my chat? Who did it, mod? There are no mods. If you type something and it didn't show up, that's because it's. I think there's. Actually, you know what? I don't see it anymore. There's I don't know if it's hidden. There's like the regular chat and then there's like live chat. So some things get like auto censored by YouTube. I could turn it off, but then there's sometimes people come in and like spam things, so I just leave it on. So if you're typing stuff and you don't see it on the screen, it's because it's YouTube decided to auto moderate it. But I can see that comment, so some of your stuff is getting through. Awesome, man. I like hearing about that. Yeah, the housing situation thing. Housing is important. So that's one less thing to think about. Frozen Spaceman since 149. Excellent. Thank you very much. And there's some nice graphic of trees. Excellent. Okay, I'm confused about why why does it think it's in a horizontal orientation? Actually, I could remove the dependency on that. Do I have that backwards? Maybe that should be divided by. /me unfreezes Spaceman with option for him to refreeze himself if he should prefer to be frozen. I like hearing about your design process. It's cool. And that's good. There's I guess there are a lot of, part of the reason it's taking me so long to make this is because I'm putting like lots of very long-term, ideally fairly scalable design decisions into it. If you have any specific questions about stuff, let me know. I'm looking at this piece of code here, and I'm thinking, wait, how did this ever work? I guess that does make sense. Well, I was asking about, I want to switch from non-tech background to tech. I'm interested in web app development. Need guidance on where to start and which programming languages I should learn. Huh. That's interesting that you're asking about that and Google censored you. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Do you actually, let me check the moderation thing a little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it's actually just cut off of my user interface, but like up there, just above the goal thing, I changed it to live chat, and that shows me everything. But I don't see. It doesn't show me the whatever previous thing. Are you sure you actually typed it? Maybe it just didn't go through. Maybe it was like a, I don't know, transient error or something. Because I don't, usually when people post stuff that gets censored, it's like, I think the most common thing is if someone makes a joke about a conspiracy theory, that seems to be the thing that gets caught up there the most. I was just going on, switch from non-tech background to tech. Interested in web app development. I need guidance on where to start and which programming languages. I would say the best thing is to start from whatever your current expertise is, and maybe, I guess a good answer probably depends a lot on like kind of where are you in your career and stuff. Because if you're younger, your options are maybe broader than if you've already kind of midway through your career journey. Then I know there's like, I've heard of like, camps for like these like 40-year-old people who got laid off from like an oil company or something, and they're trying to get into like mobile app development, and I think that's very unlikely to work out financially for them. Yeah, I would say so you want to do web programming, JavaScript, React. So JavaScript is the language, and then all the frameworks and stuff. I haven't done any paid work in web development in quite a few years now. So some of my knowledge of what's the latest and greatest is probably decreasing. I think a lot of companies now are not. Now is probably not the best time to get into that field, because I think there's a glut of like highly skilled programmers that have been laid off. They're all looking for work, and companies now are only hiring. They want people who have lots of experience. But having said that, I mean, if you're super motivated, you can grind away and apply to 10 million jobs. Yeah, learning like React.js, that would be a standard thing. If you're more interested in like hardware, well, I guess you said web development. Yeah, the web app development is kind of crowded, and it also is probably one of the areas that's more that will be more affected by AI. So I've said to people before, if you want maybe more job security, probably like embedded systems might be a bit better. But that's also like, that's quite different from like JavaScript and React stuff. There's almost no crossover between the knowledge in those languages. Never read diffs in that raw format for a long time. Only reason I used an IDE was to view diffs. Interesting. I don't even I don't think I ever viewed diffs in any other way. JavaScript is a language that could be learned. Yeah, it's the standard one for web. TypeScript is also kind of an improvement on JavaScript. I almost made a joke about Google wanting you to use Gemini to code for you instead of learning web development yourself. You would have got censored. I want to learn Python. Can you help me? You want to learn it? ChatGPT. My end goal is building my own web apps and mobile apps. In terms of like the specific things you will learn, like learning web apps is one thing, and then learning mobile apps is a different thing entirely. I would say basically no one learns like how to build all web apps and all types of mobile development. Often people will pick a specific platform and then learn that specific one specifically. So like if you want to do mobile app development for Apple products, that's a whole ecosystem of tools. If you want to do Android, that's a whole different ecosystem. And then once you go down the rabbit hole of one of those things, usually you will not, like by the time you learn, like let's say you learn web app development on Android for the Android ecosystem, by the time you learn that, if you then switch to like Mac stuff and try to learn that as well, your other knowledge will be out of date. So usually people end up picking one of those things. I personally stayed away from mobile app development, because I think the ecosystem just moves too fast. Like, it really seems like an environment where developers have almost no control and there's almost no upside. Like, it really seems like the way a lot of companies do apps is they basically, like, to make a phone useful, you need apps, and by creating this whole app store ecosystem, it was a great, like, psychological manipulation tactic to basically outsource development of the entire operating system to random developers. So now, I mean, it's kind of a crazy thing when you think about it. So basically, like, you are paying money to write things that should be part of the operating system, like timer apps and clock apps and note apps and stuff like that. It's a great value for the platform, but not. There's lots of people that they make an app and spend tons of time on it. They make like $100, or the odd one will make like $5,000 in revenue. But it's not a way to get rich. Gemini can write my React, so my mind can stay clean. Free Code Camp covers a lot of that. Yeah, I'm not. I haven't spent a lot of time on those sites. Usually, anytime I look up stuff, it's to look up like the definition of a specific function or API or something. But in terms of learning the basics of Python, I wouldn't even know how people start that mostly these days. I would probably just say watch YouTube videos. Looking at creating progressive web applications, which is a hybrid web application. Seems like a local mobile app. Interesting. I've never even heard of that, actually. I'm studying BSc and physics. Which career I can choose, which help me in future. Studying physics. Which career can you choose to help you in the future? I don't know. That's a good question. If you're in physics, I mean, we have a need for physics, but at the same time, I think like highly skilled professions are kind of, everything's going into recession now. I'd probably ask like, what kind of jobs are your peers getting? So if you can figure out like in your like wherever you live, because that's also a big part of it. What is the job market in your area asking for, and people who major in physics in your area, what do they usually end up getting in terms of jobs? And then you can just pick, if you want to maximize the probability you get a job, just focus on adapting your career path to whatever most people want. Because if you start first, like you could say, I want to be an architect or something, but there's lots of people that choose that, and then they just get that in their head, and then there's no jobs in that career path, or there's just like incredibly competitive. Outside of embedded, what other jobs are there for C programmers? Kernel developers. I would imagine there's probably, I guess like if you look at, if you answer the question, who contributes to the Linux kernel, who's like right today, who's trying to get stuff merged in, a lot of that's probably like companies. I'm sure like NVIDIA Corporation or Intel or something, or there's people at those companies who are always like writing drivers for their own products and trying to get that merged in. So I'm sure there probably are still a decent number of people doing that, and then there's kind of like niche companies that make like networking hardware and stuff, and they contribute to the kernel. As a JS-oriented dev that uses a lot of AI, I'm jealous that AI tools like ChatGPT can run Python directly, but not Node.js. Make YouTube videos explaining physics. People watch all of them, no matter how many there are on the same topic. Yeah, you could try out making YouTube videos on physics, although it's a competitive space. I've got 150k subscribers, and that's still not enough to pay the rent. It is some months, but not every month. But if it's something that really interests you, it's worth a try. Make a couple of videos and see if they get any traction. Is the kernel like an API to the OS? Yeah, I guess from the perspective of the OS like can consider the kernel just like an API. Depending on how you define operating system, some would say it's like the kernel's usually considered like the core part of the operating system. But yeah, it's generally like for any given piece of hardware, like a network device or something, the OS just says like, okay, here's some bytes that we're going to send over the network, and there's some general API that's provided, and then for a given piece of hardware, if you're a hardware manufacturer, you have to implement that API that's offered by the kernel. And I actually don't really even completely know how well that works. The kernel is meant to be fairly modular, so I think you can make your own modules, and there's a whole category of things to learn for how to do that, which I'm not. Making device drivers is not something I know about. Thanks for info. Have a good night. Have a good night. Robert, what did you do before your degree? You got relatively later in life. Do you still work in programming? So after I graduated, I took a couple years off. So around 19, I decided to start trying to trade the stock market. And so I actually just day traded. I had like $3,000, $3,000 or $5,000 or something at the time. I just day traded for a while and tried that out. I got really interested in the market, and eventually, like after a few months, it became clear I was not gonna make a ton of money doing that. So I got a full-time job as a stock clerk, getting like a couple cents above minimum wage. Did that for about a year, and then I tried to get into university, and they rejected my application. But they said that if I did, they made me do these like university refresher courses, which were actually because my high school wasn't very great. It was totally new content for me at the time. What is the temperature? The temperature is 1. Thank you for asking. Cool stuff. What's the job prospects like for the kernel dev field? That's a good question. I actually don't really know. I think probably most likely those those kinds of jobs probably evolve out of, like, you'd apply for some company that makes some, proprietary networking equipment, or maybe some, like, big boring company, like they just manufactures something. And as part of your job, you would write. You asked about, like, things that are not embedded, but it would probably be like semi close to, like, embedded stuff. That would probably be like what you'd be hired for, and then over time, they might say, like, hey, while you're at it, why don't you work on integrating the stuff into the kernel or whatever, so that when we ship our devices, that they actually work. And usually I find, like, companies treat employees just like a commodity. So you might get hired to write, like, device driver software or something for, you probably get hired for something, like, totally different. And then if they had a need for that and you had the skills, like, you might even get hired to write, like, Microsoft drivers. And then if they just don't have any work for you at that time, they'll be like, okay, we'll just switch you into, like, integrating the stuff into the Linux kernel, and maybe you settle down into that, or maybe they pull you away to do something really boring. It's totally proprietary. Does Canada use Celsius or Fahrenheit? We use Celsius. Buy the whole market and own it forever. That's a good strategy for getting rich. That's not what I expected. Sounds like C jobs are limited outside of embedded. They probably are. I honestly, I don't really know. I can't really think of many places that would have a need for people writing C software in this day and age. Remember what your best trade was when you were a day trader? Eventually, I think I moved on to from equities to Forex day trading, and I think the night that Bear Stearns collapsed, that was it was like a move of like 200 pips in the currency market, and I think I did good that night. I only made like probably $100 or something, but if I'd been trading with Like that was like a 2% move in the currency market in a day, which is crazy. If you own absolutely everything, but you bought it with borrowed money, surely people who want to get interest on their loan would have to go through a company you own. It's true. That's why there's an advantage in owning everything. Sir, Mr. Robert, your age. You want to know my age? Time for me to skill up to Rust and C++. Interested in building systems. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would have to assume that in terms of actual paid work, there probably is not a lot out of embedded systems or something even like there probably is some like platform. Like there would be some systems that are where it's not really like an embedded system that you're building. Like I would assume most modern networking equipment, like routers and stuff, they're almost like they're pretty far from, like the more advanced ones would be quite far from being like an embedded system. A lot of them probably run like, I think actually some routers run like a version of Linux and stuff. So there would be probably places where your task is like make a fork of Linux that has it's a very trimmed down version of Linux where you just like disable most of the modules and get it to run on a router or something like that that doesn't have much memory, and so in that case it's almost like not really embedded, but you're still writing user applications within the context of Linux. I would call like true embedded stuff where you're writing like firmware that runs where there's no like virtual memory or anything, and you have like full access to the memory space. Okay, so one of my issues is it looks like it's initializing the size with 0. Right, update renderable area. So that's where it gets the renderable area from. Such a simple thing, but it's so complicated. So I'm telling this to recalculate constants. When it recalculates constants, because I just opened the frame, the display area has no size. So it's giving the wrong screen orientation. And that's why I'm getting the index violation. Best C++ uses few C++ features. It's a lot like C. Yeah, I'd say that's generally correct. C++ is, they just keep adding features to it unnecessarily. Can I make an assistant like Jarvis in Kali Linux? I'm not familiar with Jarvis, but Kali Linux is Kali Linux has a bunch of like pen testing tools and stuff installed on it. I think Kali Linux, my understanding of it, I've only used it like a couple times, is if you want like a specific hacking tool or pen testing tool, on Kali Linux, it comes pre-installed. But I don't think it's not really optimized for software development. So if you want to develop software, probably Ubuntu is better. But then again, like technically you can install anything on any distribution of Linux. Someone made a 3D front end for the block mining simulator. No? Does your code make it easy to run without a GUI? So actually, I talked to them a bit more. Yeah, there was an issue. They filed it as an issue because I didn't have a discussion tab. So you can look at the pictures there, but and I asked them about the code, and apparently, so what they did, so they generated the world with this game. So they ran the client, but basically what they did is they wrote their own 3D client to talk to the database. So I think they basically bypassed all of the code that I wrote, and they just used they vibe coded stuff to talk to the database. But I guess they were able to get out of. I guess it'd be interesting to know how much work it was to do that. So it wasn't really built on top of it, but I guess that's a testament to how kind of simple and portable the data format is, which is kind of one of my goals for making this. Actually, I tried, but some error when I run. You'll have to Google that error. Change your lights to red, please. Not tonight. Maybe a different night. If you press Alt F4, it will find compressible code. That sounds pretty tempting, but I think my code's already compressed enough. So I have to rethink how this thing is working. I guess I could add what I want here. Try it, man. I'll try it later. Delete system32 to compress your OS. I've never tried that, but it would probably work. Shut down Alt F4. I don't want to shut down. I can tell you, hip hop right. Ready again. Read. I don't know, it sounds like nonsense. Code sounds delicious. Lots of recipes. Yep. It's for crafting things. So currently it just includes the existing crafting recipes for different types of picks. But longer term, the plan will be to start adding lots more. You mentioned looking up some person's story about surviving some ordeal at sea last night. Person's name. I think it was Ernest Shackleton. I think that's his name. Shackleton was definitely the last name, I think. I think it was Ernest Shackleton. And it was about they tried to find the South Pole, and they got lost and stuck in pack ice, and they ended up on I think it was called Elephant Island, and they survived there for a crazy amount of time. I mean, it's not. I guess it's not necessarily like an uplifting story, but it's just like if you want a good interesting evening, I think I watched a 2-hour documentary on it or something. There's probably a lot more documentaries now. Tried scrubbing through to find where you mentioned. Yeah, there was that's the main one I was thinking about. I think there's I guess there's probably lots of other interesting tales. There's there's a few YouTube channels I've seen recently about they'll do a short documentary on these random remote islands and stuff. And if you can find some of those channels, if you just search on YouTube for remote Soviet island, remote Russian island, and there's these 5-minute documentaries about these random places in the middle of nowhere. And if you watch some of those, oftentimes in those short stories they'll mention about who discovered it, and there'll be a kind of brief thing that they'll mention some explorer from 200 years ago. That's kind of an interesting deep dive to go into. For posterity, Ernest Shackleton. Yep. Horror stories everywhere. Spotify, podcast, YouTube, endless material. Yeah, there's so much good stuff on the internet now. I remember back in the day when there's only television, there was nothing to watch, but now there's too many things to watch. There's so many really good podcasts that I want to watch, but people are creating content at a rate that exceeds what I can consume. Okay, let's see if this will do what I want. Should have compiled this on the other machine. that doesn't crash. That's good. Okay, close frame, open custom frame, open crafting. Excellent. That is exactly what I wanted to have happen. So now, close current frame, open custom frame, open crafting menu. Excellent. So that was when I first started the stream. That's the thing I was trying to demo that actually works. That's not good. I guess that might be expected in that case. There's still a few like this here, it's uninitialized space, but I'll probably leave that to last. I'm gonna try to meet my day 200 goal of actually finishing this and releasing it. And as I get closer to it, I'll just kind of try to patch over, get as close as possible to the functionality I wanted. Always a good sign when we hear excellent. Until you say that's not good. Yep, lots of bugs. But that was still progress. Okay. So I think the next thing is there's a general design pattern I need to add for sending messages. So I want to reduce the number of classes that I'm creating. Because I'm creating all these like one-off. Let's see. Yeah, here's all my work item classes. So a bunch of these like I have all these work items for like notifying when things change. Like the player position and stuff. So I think I'm going to change that to be like a subscription model. Because as I add more features, there's going to be more and more things that that other frames have to subscribe to. So the advantage of putting stuff in different frames, they're in different threads, means they can all run at different rates, and it has benefits of taking advantage of multi-threading and stuff. But the disadvantage is I have way more. The burden of communicating stuff around is much higher. But if I can make it general, then if I can generalize that, then. But this is one of those. This is like that. It's a question about like, should I work on fixing long-term technical debt, or should I just do something that's going to take more time, but it might get done faster. Use Gemini to create technical debt and Codex to fix it. I've heard of Gemini. Use Codex, another AI tool. Codex is a tool from opening, like Claude Code. They also have GPT-5 Codex now. Model that is good at coding, good for running. Running is the model powering the Codex tool. Interesting. Yeah, I can't keep up with all these new AI tools. I still have yet to actually sit down and seriously try them. People keep asking me about it, so I looked up how to use Claude Code with IntelliJ again, and the results. Even now, it says there's a plugin for it, but it all has like 1 stars, and everyone says it's terrible. It doesn't work, and Thanks for all the chat. Good night. Have a good night. An analogy of technical debt is financial debt. Loans and debt with high interest rates are analogous to code you really should fix now, or suffer pay later, or even forever. Kind of. I think the analogy is not it doesn't completely hold. I would say that with I guess maybe you could the comparison would be better if what do you call it? Like with debt, the independent variable is time, but with technical debt, the independent variable is future improvements and changes to the code. So you can have a project with a ton of technical debt, and you can never pay off the debt, and there's no downside. Like if you really know you're at the finish line of something, you can just start like putting global variables and stuff everywhere, and then as long as it actually works, you can just keep patching it. You don't ever have to like unwind everything. If you're at like actually at the finish line, you can just kind of keep it there, and then make tons of money for 30 years, and there's actually you're not actually accruing anything from it. Hi, I bought you a coffee, but I'm getting recurring coffee charges every month. I bought you a coffee, but I'm getting recurring coffee charges every month. You mean here on YouTube, or? Did you do you mean that like metaphorically, or with a super chat, or is there like another platform that's? Because I only have I have YouTube, I have Patreon. You need as much coffee as possible. That is true. I do like coffee. Although I've tried to step back over the pace myself in the last few years. I've about one coffee a day. It's okay. I enjoy your videos. You said you said I bought you a coffee. Did you actually pay money somewhere? Or I'm not sure if you mean something different by that. But if you've like, I know there's other like platforms out there where supposedly you can pledge money to someone, but they have no association with the person, and then they just like keep the money. I have also seen in the past someone on Twitter linked a I think someone tried to do like there was a thing, what was that, I think like pump.fun, where you could like create a cryptocurrency and with the click of a button, and I think someone uploaded a picture of me on there and was trying to do some rug pull or something, but I don't think anyone even paid attention to it. But yeah, I'm curious what you meant by I bought you a coffee. I'd be curious if you expand on that. Or maybe I'm just misinterpreting what you wrote. credit card statement. Where did you go to purchase to buy me a coffee? I don't know. There's no way. I don't know of a way to buy a coffee for me. Is it on like a website? If so, what's the name of the website? You're at work? Yeah, if so I don't know of any. There's no I have Patreon and I have YouTube memberships, but there's no other way. I have an online store that I set up, but that's not like a recurring charge. So I don't know of any I don't have any service where you can buy me a coffee. So if you bought me a coffee somewhere, that money goes to somewhere else. Have you heard of some service where you can support creators by buying them a coffee? Yeah, it's also used metaphorically. Yeah, I have heard of services where I'd assume probably it'd be hard for people to find those services even, but they like claim you can, support creators or something, and that they claim they were like, it's something where like the creator has to like claim the money or something, but they're collecting it on behalf of someone else, and they don't tell the creator, so they're just like sitting on huge amounts of money, and they don't ever give it to the person. But yeah, if you're if you bought me a coffee on something, I probably I'm not sure where that is, but if you're getting charged for something regularly, that money is probably not going to me. I don't know where that was. If you want, you can send me an email. I'd be curious to know where. If you're sending money somewhere, I'd be curious to know where you found that, so I can take a look at it. So send me an email or leave a comment on any on either this video or all right, let's see, try to get this to compile. All right, that works. So yeah, there's a few more steps to make that generic. Eventually, I want to use that same kind of message type for getting updates on the inventory. So I'll start work on that tomorrow. And I guess I'll have to look into the issue with the selected item getting messed up. All right, I'll probably leave it there for tonight. Bastello pylon. Yeah, if you want, send me a message or send me an email just to make sure if you're getting charged for something. It'd be if it's some third party service that's just taking your money and I don't even see it, then I should definitely look into that. But we'll be back tomorrow for day 196. The clock's ticking. We're fast approaching day 200. All right, have a good night, everyone.